Do you hear the whining feedback? Oh, they fixed it. Good.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Yep. Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. My name's Sarah Box. I'm the Counsellor and the Directorate for Science, Technology and Innovation here at the OECD. It's my very great pleasure to be introducing Tara Wheeler today for this Meet the Author session. Tara is the Principal Security Advisor and CEO at Red Queen Technologies, which helps businesses secure themselves against web threats, mainly in the transport, finance, and healthcare fields. She's also the Cybersecurity Policy Fellow at New America, which is a think tank which focuses on technology and social change and the opportunities and challenges that come with that. But I think what you realize on reading Tara's book is that she's actually much more than that. She's had a very eclectic path so far. She's had a lot of diverse experiences, and I think that's what makes this book such a good read, actually. So I followed Tara's advice on reading this book. I went from cover to cover, and I think that despite the fact that it's called Women in Tech, there is actually something in here for all of us, regardless of which sector we work in, and indeed, even if you're a guy, there's a chapter for the guys at the end. So I'm very much looking forward to your presentation and the discussion. So please, Tara, the floor is yours.
It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here. C'est un plaisir. I am overwhelmed by the community that I have found here and honored that the OECD had me here to speak on two interrelated issues. Cybersecurity and diversity in technology are not two separate things. In fact, most of technology is interrelated in a way that we don't often pay attention to when we're focused deeply on one area of specialty. It is overwhelming, but as women in technology, I think we're all used to a little bit of feeling overwhelmed, yes? I hear voices around me all the time. Some of them are paying attention, some of them aren't, some of them are looking at me, some of them aren't. It's a lot like being at any tech company I can think of at the moment, right? As we're sitting here, one of the first things I think is that I was granted the opportunity to speak about technology and to write this book in a way I hope that made me a voice for other women and not just for my own views on the subject. There was a reason that I and 7 other women came from around the world to put this message out, which is, if there is any one thing I want to start this session with, and I will end it with, it is this: you are not alone. There are women everywhere just like you. All of us have different stories, but ultimately it is all the same. We all face the challenges and we all overcome, and we are not alone. I think I've talked so much about being a woman in tech that I've almost talked out about it. I think we know at this point that the problem is there, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. I often simply start in sessions like this with asking people, what do they have to ask me? What questions do they have to ask me? And yet, I can also almost always just predict what those questions are going to be. Let me guess. Everyone here wants to know how to get paid more, right? There's the smiles. Everyone here wants to know what to do when their boss won't give them a promotion, and yet it seems like everyone else is getting a promotion, right? Yep. And everyone here wants to know how to balance having a career and having a family in a way that is meaningful and yet still lets you be the top of your field, right? Yeah. There's a problem when I can predict what those questions are going to be every single time. That doesn't mean I won't answer them, but it does mean that we keep having the same questions again and again, and that means that those questions are not being answered satisfactorily by the companies that we're working for, right? Right. So I'm going to make sure I can be heard, right? This continues to fall a little bit. Okay, just making sure. The very first thing I like to tell women is this, and it is a universal thing. Money is power. Don't turn it down. When you are negotiating for your positions in a tech company, when you are changing jobs, is going to be one of the best times for you to make a difference in the gender gap. Is it fair that you're the one who's going to have to be making the effort to put yourself out there, to feel that conflict and fear? No, it is not fair, and it is not right, but nobody's going to do it for you. Except for Mark Benioff at Salesforce. I admire that guy. He actually shone some light on the fact that the women and the men in his company at Salesforce were not being paid equally. I admire the fact that he published the data about how women at his company were not being paid equally and then proceeded to do what? Pay them the same. It really is that simple, right? As men, as powerful leaders in companies, that's your power. Do that thing. Until that happens everywhere, here's some tips. The very first thing I tell women, that I tell anyone, but that I specifically tell women is this: don't name a number first, all right? I come out of political economy in the academic world, and the truth is, the first person to name a number in a negotiation always loses, right? Either you name a number that is too low, and then you are undervaluing yourself, because it will be accepted by them. They're not going to volunteer to pay you more. Or you name a number that's too high, and then what are you? Unreasonable. Maybe even another word or two that we're often described as, right? Right. Don't name a number first. The second thing you need to do is this: don't say yes to the first offer. When it comes to women and salary negotiations, we so much want to be liked. We want to be accepted in our roles. We want to be thought of as reasonable, as team players, right? However, not naming a number first and not saying yes to the first offer closes almost 80% of the gap between women's and men's salaries. Everything after that is a lot more learning and a lot more attention paid to details and negotiating over benefits. But those two things will change your life, and they'll give you more money and more power. If you are worried about being seen as a team player, remember to always phrase things in terms of your value to the team and your desire to be a good team player. Think and talk about how you'll be a good addition to the team, and use that as your negotiating strategy. Always ask me on Twitter, too. I'm happy to give you my one-liners there. The second thing, what do you do when you feel that you are not being treated well in your current position? Get out. Leave the company. Go find a new one. Flatly, if you are being disrespected and treated poorly by your boss and by the men around you, it is not your job to fix that culture. I'm telling you something that is difficult and problematic, but the truth is that you are worth more than being treated badly every single day. Find a company that treats you well. Better yet, start your own. I can think of more than one time in my life when I declared victory, went home, printed CEO on a business card, and made it stick. Sometimes you need to take care of yourself, and that's okay to do. And the third and final thing, we're just finishing off those major questions now because they were going to come up anyway, right? Which is, how do you have a family and a career at the same time? Now, most of this audience is women. I get cranky when people ask me questions about being a woman in technology when I'm not talking about being a woman in technology. Here, I'll answer that question, and I'll answer it well. And I'll answer it in a way that's painful. I'm married to the right man. Now. I wasn't always. Sheryl Sandberg was right when she said that there is no more important career choice a woman can make than her choice of a partner. No more important choice that you can make. My partner is at home right now, retweeting and screen capturing and cheering me on and making sure the cats are fed and expressing care and love for me. If your partner doesn't support you, I wish you the absolute best in your career and in your relationship choices. It's going to be harder if they don't support you. All right? I'm admitting personal flaws and vulnerabilities, and it's hard to talk about sometimes. If you don't have someone that you can talk to and that you can be honest with about your own choices, find that person. It better not be your boss. Your boss is not your mentor, right? How to balance that family and that career. Get a good partner who supports you and cares for you. My partner happens to be part of the information security community, and as a result, we are fortunate enough to often be able to travel to the same business events and conferences together to speak on different topics at the same conference. It's wonderful. For people that have families at home, find that partner who wants to be equal with you in caregiving. Be aware, especially in the United States, that we do not have mandated paid parental leave, and as a result, that is one of the biggest problem areas in ensuring gender equality in technical workplaces. If you want to have a partner who wants to be a primary caregiver to children, I encourage you so much to be grateful for that. It's hard to find that person, and no matter the gender of your partner or the choices that you make, find someone that wants to support and care for you. Lots of people is even better, right? I will never have the same path as any of you. You will all have a unique path. And yet, at the same time, we all find ways to be filled with joy in this career. I get to create things every day. I will never let anyone throw me out of this career path. And yet, it's twice as hard for me to stay as it is for a man at my current level, in my position, at my level in my career. It is. And if you feel like it's harder for you to stay in tech than it is for the men around you, you're right. You're flatly right. I hope it's going to get better. I hope it's going to get better because I see girls now with joy in their eyes in a way that I didn't see maybe 10 to 15 years ago, which is good because women are still leaving at twice the rate that men are, or being pushed out of their careers at twice the rate that men are at every stage in a career. It's okay to feel alone, but you're not. It's okay to feel frightened, but you don't have to be. And more than anything else, if you have that sense of joy in tech, don't let anyone tell you to leave. All right? That's all I've got to say at the moment. I want to hear what you have to ask me. I've never been to Paris before. I went to the Champs-Élysées yesterday and I ate macarons. I'm extremely happy about this. I want to hear from you. I'm so thrilled to be here right now. I'm going to put this on and hopefully I'll be able to hear you. If we have any problems like I heard earlier, I'll just ask you to shout out your questions.
Hi, I run actually coding school in Poland, and I'm much involved in diversity, and I also have women experts kind of network for women in experts in the field, and actually have to have a presentation next week to women who want to be in IT business, they want to be in programmers, and I decided to have a speech to talk about 10 hacks of women in tech, and actually asking my experts in Poland, but I'd like to ask you, what would do for you to keep you going? Because as you say, twice more women leave the company than others. So give us the hacks, how to keep yourself. I know you have to leave the company if you don't have the culture, but what are things which made you be heard, be accepted, and be reputable in the business of cybersecurity, which is high risk, which 99% of men. So how you made it to get on top and stay? What was your strengths, the hidden hacks you can share with all of us?
Some of these will sound so trivial and some will sound very grandiose, but I'll give them to you in no particular order. I wear black every day, all black, nothing else. I make no fashion choices whatsoever. It's fine, I'm seeing you laughing right now. But I have opted out of trying to dress perfectly and taking 45 minutes every day to craft a look. I have 20 of the same t-shirt, same black t-shirt. It just makes it easier. It sounds so trivial, but it saves me 45 minutes a day. I wear lipstick and face powder. I save time and I fill that time with, let's be honest, Twitter and reading, right? The Economist. I spend time getting a chance to do things that women who take a great deal of different kinds of choices with their appearance don't get a chance to. We have so many choices in terms of fashion that often it's overwhelming. If you have a look, stick with that look. Just be you and save that time. Second one, I avoid diversity porn. It's an expression that some people use for reading that latest article about how horrifying the situation is for women in technology. If I see things like that popping up in my Facebook feed or my Twitter feed, oh God, everything's terrible about women in technology and how bad they're being treated in any place in careers, I try to shut it off immediately instead of reading it. And the reason why is it makes me more stressed out. It makes me more afraid. It makes me more aware of what's going on. And sometimes you need to put those blinders on and focus on what brings you joy. Math works the same for me as it works for a man. Python works the same for me as it works for a man. And when I can focus on that, when I can script, when I can break into boxes, when I can use my technological skills, that brings me joy. Reading things about how bad everything is depresses me more than it helps me. Third, I eat, sleep, and exercise. Take care of yourself. That is the basis for being able to be strong in yourself. For programming, probably the fourth and best way I can put it is this. It's not just about the cool tools. If you have something you're passionate about solving, you will go and solve it. You'll find the tools to do it. You'll do it with WordPress, with Python. You'll do it at the command line. You'll do it writing longhand on a piece of paper. Tech is there for us to solve problems, and if you focus on solving your problem and telling people about it, don't be quiet about it, tell people you solved the problem, you'll have that joy and you'll have increased your skill set, and no one can take it away from you. Those are probably my 4 biggest things every day.
Anyone else? Please, in the front row here.
I'm from New Zealand, just thought I'd introduce myself first. Our Prime Minister is one of the women who I believe you're talking about, someone who's in a position of power, but, you know, has a very supportive partner who is willing to, you know, stay at home, and yeah, she's currently pregnant, so yes. My question was more along the lines of, what is your opinion on the role of intersectionality in the tech industry? I think it's good that there's a new push to have more of a gender balance, but would you agree that there are still disparities in regards to some women who are lacking privilege even more than others? For example, women in rural communities who may need more of a support to even get to that baseline level, whereas most people here, you know, are in a position of privilege where we can attend events like this and network and get those opportunities. And yeah, I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
I am so glad to hear you bring that up. First of all, if I'm recalling correctly, your Prime Minister is one of the youngest women ever at 37 to be the leader of a country. So first, congratulations, killer. And of course, that comes from the land of Lord of the Rings, so I'm fine with that. You are absolutely correct, and I am grateful and humbled that you brought up intersectionality in technology. There is a reason why we are privileged to attend events like this. Often we've been given things by virtue of who we are, where we were born, and the parents to which we were born that other people simply don't get a chance to catch up to, right? We, all of us, have a responsibility to pay attention to the role of ethnicity, gender, location, economic privilege, and every other form of intersectionality in feminism and in diversity. As a concrete example, one of the things that I try very hard to do is to not solely mentor white women, right? I very deliberately seek out women of color who have had non-traditional backgrounds because often they are hungrier for the advice I can provide. And second, even if they started earlier and in a different place than a young white woman who went to Stanford did, I can often make more of a difference in their lives. That is my job and my responsibility. And the reason I do that is because I was mentored by older, rich, white, straight men, right? They were the ones that gave me my opportunities because frankly, there aren't any women above me in more senior positions at most companies at this point, right? There functionally are no women sponsors and mentors for me to go to. Since those men have reached out and done their best for me, I try to do my best for women who have experienced more issues with intersectionality than I have. If everyone in this room can do the same and take the privilege that they are being given, the sponsorship that they are being given by people who found privilege first and pass it on, we're doing more to address intersectionality than simply writing blog posts will, right? Is this fair? Thank you very much for the question.
I think I saw a question up the back at some point. Yes, the lady there.
My name is Christine Hattin. I have tried to do a startup in decision tool in healthcare. I was interested to know what you think about the networks linking science and technology. And there is one which is called West Woman Entrepreneur in Science and Technology. I wonder if you're supportive of this networking and if you think they are good enough to help with cutthroats, especially in the early stage of the businesses, and how you relate to science and women in science anyway.
Thank you very much. The role of women in healthcare startups is going to be incredibly valuable over the next 10 to 15 years in bringing to attention the kinds of healthcare issues that haven't often surfaced, since women solve different healthcare problems often than the market does. The role of networks in providing venture capital and providing support for startups, I can't overstate it. A woman named Arlen Hamilton started Backstage Capital with $32 million and recently announced her intention to invest solely in Black women founders of tech companies. And the kind of networking and support that she is able to provide is beyond invaluable. I'm so grateful to see that kind of network beginning to erupt in the technology space. You can't do this alone. The good news, as I said, is you're not alone, but finding that network to plug into has to be a major part of any attempt to solve a problem and create a startup, right?
Good afternoon. So I'm Maud Foresti from France, and I mean you are at a especially high-stake position. You have a very important role. So in a high-tech sector. So how do you cope with the pressure you can have at that level, and with regard to the men? I mean, how do they to get the? It's maybe more a question about legitimacy. As a woman, we sometimes lack some feeling of to be legitimate or something like that.
I was recently asked to self-nominate there's a prestigious think tank in the United States that just was putting together a list of diverse minority cybersecurity experts. The hitch was you had to tell them you were an expert yourself before they would put you on the list. It is difficult for women to put themselves forward in a way like that because it opens you up to a charge of being arrogant or bragging or inappropriately asserting your own credentials. And the truth is that as women, we are more vulnerable to even one person standing up and shouting, she doesn't deserve to be there, she doesn't belong there, because those voices can be very loud, and worse is when we internalize them, right? How do I deal with the anxiety of not being thought good enough to be where I am? I don't know that anybody thinks that they feel like they're good enough to be where they are. I have no idea what I'm doing sitting on this stage right now. Do you want to know what I was doing about 3 hours ago? I was in the bathroom back there, and I was calming myself down and doing a little bit of meditation before I feel intimidated being among this crowd of people. You're not alone. We are all this anxious. It doesn't, this is gonna sound terrible, it doesn't get any better. You learn to deal with it a little bit better. My mother, who is crazy, inspiring but crazy, is an Ironman. It means that she has run an incredibly profound marathon race with swimming, with biking, with running. She's done an incredible physical feat. And she once asked one of the world champion Ironmen about bicycling 120 miles. Do you ever hurt less bicycling up the mountain? And the champion said, it never hurts less as you're bicycling up the mountain. You just get to the top faster. So no, you never get less anxious, and you're never less afraid that someone's going to call you unqualified to be here. You learn to process it faster and spit it out the back door. I like to look at pictures of my cats on Instagram. They're very calming. I look at my resume, and I've had people before look at my resume, and they believe it's me. I don't believe it's me when I look at my own resume, right? So imagine having imposter syndrome about yourself. It's possible. It's possible to be anxious and frightened and yet still learn to cope with it faster. Not going to get any better, but you get over it quicker. And the compensations for it are that you have the opportunity to speak for people who can't be here, right? There are young women in the US who've been pushed out of their tech positions, young women all over the world who, by virtue of their gender or skin color or the level of economic privilege they experienced at an age when their education was important, that don't have the opportunity to be here right now. I could go fall apart in a bathroom, or I could do my absolute best to be a voice for them. I'll eat a little cake later, kind of quietly in a corner.
Lady there in the green, please.
Hello, I'm Elke. Maybe this question is a little misplaced. I try it anyway because I saw the word inspiring there. So I used to be in tech, but that was last time in '94. So I used to program these days. Then I got completely into communications and was more overseeing the tech with all the websites that were developed under my supervision and stuff. So it's all about communication and doing digital marketing. So I know a little bit about it, but I didn't put my hand on it anymore. Today I'm looking for a job and I would like to go back there, but I have no clue if there is any possibility to how to get back into technology. So would you have, with your knowledge, any advice to give, which door to enter to go back to what there is today, and if there even is a possibility to get a foot in there, because there's all these young people who did it for the last 10 years, like automatically?
That's a wonderful question, and the answer to it is that all of the experiences that you have will go into making the next step in your career. I came out of academic political economy. I went into web application security. I transitioned into cybersecurity. And do you know what my very first major in college was? Communications. Everything that you are goes into being who you will be next. So it's not that you want to hide that you were in communications and in digital marketing. I mean, if you're the person sending me spam emails, hide that part. But what you need to do and think and remember is you can very rapidly pick up those skills in a programming language, right? You can pick up Python, visit Poland, there you go. You can very rapidly pick up those skills again. 6 weeks in a hard boot camp will do that for you. The truth is that we're all still learning and still improving and still making our way to that next technical step. Right now, I'm in the middle of my offensive security certified professional certification, right? It's one of the hardest certification programs that's out there. It's not a test. You get 24 hours to hack as many boxes as you can. And I'm here to tell you right now, it's a tough certification process to get through. I've been working on it for months at this point. So it's okay to be in progress, learning your next technical step. The rapid nature of tech change means that you're never more than 2 years away from needing to learn the next thing anyway. So that's both hopeful and problematic. Find a project to contribute to, and at least 1 or 2 other contributors, not who can help you, but who you can be responsible to for improving as fast as you can. Make sure that your contributions are noted. Don't let anyone erase you from the GitHub, right? Make sure that your name is on those commits. And when you do that, you're going to find it a lot easier to assert that you are somebody who's a good programmer. Also, don't call yourself a beginning anything. You are not entry level, you are not junior, you are not beginning. You're just a developer. That's it, okay? You're the one that decides if you're a developer, if you're a programmer. You can be all different levels of it, sure, but you're the person who decides if you're a developer. And it sounds like you've just decided to be a developer. Own it and keep working at it. We'll all have to keep improving.
Nope. Lady in the maroon there.
Are you all liking this me less talking up front and more questions from the audience? Okay, good.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for...
Bonjour.
It's horrible listening to my own voice, so I'll do this like that. So my name is Isabel, and I don't work at all in your field. I'm an academic, and I also work in the European Parliament, and I've worked in bureaucracies for many years.
Thank you for your service.
But I feel that the problems you talk about are not just in your field, they're cross-sectoral. And so thank you for what you're doing, because it's useful for other women as well. And I've had female bosses and male bosses, and I have to say it's the male bosses who have helped me in my life. And I want to know how we can get more Tara Willers in this world. How can we nurture this culture of women helping women? which I think exists a lot more among men. Men help each other, but I don't know with younger women if there is a better culture of helping each other, but I think our generation is not really helping each other that much. And I want to know how we can nurture this support system for women. Thanks.
It's a wonderful question. And again, thank you for your service. I am so appreciative that there are women at all stages in political work who are paying attention to this problem. First of all, please let there never be more Tara Wheelers. Second, the notion of helping each other is such a complicated one. It has to do a great deal with intersectionality, right? There is a perspective in many companies, in many teams, that they just needed to get one diverse team member in order to sort of fulfill the quota. Look, we're not terrible. We've got Jane over in the corner. She does stuff. Sometimes she gets maple bars, and as a result, often there's a false incentive set up where women, where people of color, where gender diverse and genderqueer people are often the only one of their type, of their kind on any given team in any company at a level. This creates a problem with incentives because it means that helping someone else get to your level, especially if you've sensed that they only need one, means that you could be creating a problem for yourself. There's a wonderful rule out there that, if implemented, would help to solve a lot of what you're describing in terms of women helping other women get to where they are, which is the rule of three. How many of you have heard of the rule of three on women's board participation in teams? This is a wonderful rule. It's something that helps us figure out a way to get 3 women on boards. And the reason why is, if you have only 2 women on a board, they often feel the responsibility to support one another even if they disagree. You'll get the true benefits of diversity when you have at least 3 women on a board, correct? Then 1 or 2 of them can disagree with each other. You'll still have the benefits of diversity, and then you also get their perspectives. I believe that rule holds true across realms of gender, of ethnicity, of any of the different kinds of diversities we can think of, right? The nature of being helped, for me, and I think for you, you say you've often been helped by men in your career. Frankly, I was helped by men because there wasn't anybody else to help me. So in a lot of ways, you'll often find that. And we're only human, right? These divisions are all just socially created. We're all human. We all want to try to do the best we can. We all want to get paid the highest salary. We want to succeed in our careers. And if we see something that we think might stop us from succeeding, whether that's helping someone else get to our level for then we feel like we're no longer needed, or helping someone else in a way that cuts our own political power out from underneath us, then we're only human, right? Let's not be too harsh on people that have seen only negativity from helping people like them. And that's a hard thing to do. The real answer is that the people who have the power need to redistribute it to the people that don't. I wish the answer was friendlier.
Hi.
Bonjour.
Yeah. Hearing your own voice is a little bit confusing. I'm a PhD student in Northeastern in the U.S. in Boston, and I work here as well. I have a question about, let's say, women in tech in universities. I know that I've heard a lot about women in startups from the Valley, and a lot of talk about this around Boston as well, but not enough about how to support women in PhD programs like that. And this is where we come from, right? To get into a position of starting a startup, masters and PhD programs are a lot of, like, let's say, the percentage of women that go from, or like literally just like students that go from that to startups is a great deal. I know that MIT has a little bit done my master's there, and there's a lot of discussion there, but not everywhere. I guess just an interest of if you heard something, if you see any kind of like, I don't know, initiatives. I can say that I know that Google has a fellowship to support women, but it's very small. in comparison to fellowships that Google or Microsoft or Facebook give PhD students, like tuition and funding and all, the one for women is like $10,000. Go do whatever. But what is $10,000? It's not even my tuition. It's nothing. It's not my stipend. So, yeah.
So there are sort of two questions you asked, and I want to separate them. The second one I'll answer first, which is the notion that you have to go get your master's or PhD to go get into a startup. And the answer is absolutely not. Am I encouraging you to drop out of school? Hell no. But you don't have to do anything other than have something you care about to start a company. Most of the people who go all the way through a PhD don't end up starting a company on their own, and the reason why is they've invested all of this time and energy in being in the academic and research worlds. Now, they're valuable, but at the same time, that's quite a long career path. Pulling apart the question even a little bit further, is there an issue in academia with transferring women from computer science into the sort of startup ecosystem and in Silicon Valley? I did not finish my PhD at the and one of the major contributing factors was the profound culture of problematic relations with female graduate students at the university that contributed to a lot of issues. Without, of course, going into great detail, there are problems, severe problems in academia as well as in technology, and I think many of the women here would certainly know. I'm seeing very quiet nods and a couple of face palms running around the room. Those problems exist everywhere, right? And so please decouple in your mind the notion that you have to go get a master's or a PhD. Does it help to have a master's? Yes, it does. Go get one as fast as you can. Nobody cares if it's in English. They just care if you've got a graduate degree to get into some executive level positions. Like, this is the straight dough. Just get a quick graduate degree if that's all you need. It is Pareto optimal over not having one. Is it better to have a Master's of Science from Stanford in computer science? Sure, right? But most of us are never going to get into that program. Your most optimal thing to do is rapidly get a graduate degree and then get out and start working, in terms of both your economic power, your capacity as an entrepreneur, and your skills in the tech world. The last part of your question, which is the sort of the first thing you asked, is what about supporting those women? What responsibility do companies have to support women in technology? And the answer is none and all of it. You know, these companies don't make money off of giving women in technology career scholarships and education scholarships. So is it good for their shareholders? Probably not. And the other side of the answer is every responsibility. First, because adding women to your board and adding women to your tech teams means that companies that have been studied see between a 26% and a 40% return on investment increase year over year for 10 years, right? So the answer is ultimately down the road, you will make more money by hiring and sponsoring and bringing in women and promoting them internally. And that is part of your responsibility to your shareholders as a public company. It's often hard to draw that clear line and say, I'm the person you should invest in, right? So I would say that the answer for you specifically, bringing it all the way back around again, is make a case for them to support you, not women. Why are you special? The answer is you are. You've got an incredible story. For God's sake, you're doing a PhD at Northwestern. That's a wonderful school. Congratulations. And be you, do you. Don't let the companies that aren't supporting you hold you back. And you don't have to have a PhD to do well in technology. There are certain things that help, certain signifiers. But ultimately what matters is what you care about and the problems you solve with the tools that you have and that you create.
We've got about 5 minutes left, so looking forward to the question in the front here and any others that you might.
Thank you very much for your talk. My name is Lee. I came from investment banking background, also very male-dominated industry, and I have a question about the leadership style. So I work in Russia, which is also very kind of traditional culture, and when a woman is assertive, she's considered to be tough. She would be called with the word beginning.
I know what she gets called.
Yes. So I was wondering, do you think there's a leadership style for women that would allow them to still stay feminine, but at the same time successful in their career?
This is a difficult question because it goes not just to women, but it also very much goes to country culture, also the corporate culture of the company that you're in, the part of the field that you're in, and so many other complex factors. I can tell you one thing specifically that works very well for me to both be considered a team player, assertive, and kind, which is that anytime I get the opportunity to, and I see someone make a really wonderful point, I will assertively stick my fist on a table and be like, Jane had an excellent point, and I think we should all stop and think for a moment about that. Wonderful idea, Jane, right? And I have stopped, I've taken the meeting over, I've asserted that someone has given a great example, a great idea, I've promoted a woman in the room, and I've also brought the attention to myself if I'm especially leading the meeting, and it's my job to lead that meeting, right? Find a way to be assertive about being kind to someone else on your team. It works really, really well.
Thank you.
I think we're coming almost to the end of our session now. If there's one more question, we can probably take it. Is there anyone else that has a question for Tara? No?
Hi, thanks so much, Tara. I'm Australian, but oh my gosh, this is really weird. I have to take this off, sorry. I'm Australian, but I work and live here in France. And in France, feminism, the idea of being a feminist is almost a profanity. And I notice every time I come to some of these talks, I look around and I see one or two men, maybe. Yeah, two I can count. And my question is, how can we get men more involved in this? How can we change this from a war to a collaboration between men and women for the benefit of women? I think that's a really interesting point that we should all be looking at.
That's really what this all comes down to. It's always the quiet ones that wait until the end that ask that one question that we're all going to take another semester to deal with. How do we get men to help women? The entrepreneurial, capitalistic side of me says, make it about money. 40% increase on return on investment year over year for 10 years when women are appropriately included in a company's board and at every level of leadership, right? Make some money on it. The idealistic part of me says that men sometimes just don't notice that we're not there. And ultimately, I think the answer is that there's a generation of people that can't be fixed. I think I'm probably still part of that generation. I think we all are here because we're all still worried about this problem. We all still see it. I have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old little sister. I'm hoping that they're the generation that doesn't have to ask these questions anymore. And I think all we can do now is reflect, do our best, educate the men in our midst, ask them to take responsibility as well, because if we're still asking these questions, we're not the generation that this is going to be fixed in. Hopefully, my little sisters get to see a better world.
I think that's an excellent statement to end on, that we'll see something better in the future. Tara, thank you so much for this fantastic session. You've given us a lot of great advice, a lot of great insights. I just wanted to close out by reading one quote from Tara's book. And the quote is, ask yourself what you are stopping yourself from being because you think you'll never be done becoming. And I think what that says is just get out there, have confidence, and get on with it. So please thank me very much. Thank me for Tara's time. Thank Tara. I'm getting confused now. Thank Tara for her time.
Thank you so much.
Tara's books are available in the bookshop if you'd like to buy a copy, and she will also be signing copies at the desk just behind where we're sitting now. Thank you, Tara.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Twitter, please, is always the best way to reach me. I'm happy to speak there. Thanks.
My car. I have a foundation. I'm from Argentina, and I'm W20.
Wonderful. Lovely.
Women in the world.
I would love to know more.
Very interesting.
Such a pleasure.
Write a book.
Wonderful.